Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the home and the traditional lands of the Ojibwe, the Cree, Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. The drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this morning. Introducing the panel members is Valerie Warhan and Mr. Richard Whitred. Our recording secretary this morning is Sally Cofield, and representing the city from the assessment department is Matthew Harling, and also Mr. Ryan San Juan. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you will be placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. Then it'll be your turn and you will be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow along the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you to the hearing, you may close or mute your YouTube player. It'll be then be permitted to speak in respect to your properties. Once your hearing has been concluded, you may leave the meeting. This morning, we'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll according to the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by City Council and is independent along with the City Administration. We make decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this morning, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then it'll be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this morning. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. This morning, we'll be hearing items 1, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Ms. Cofield, could you swear in the assessors and swear in the first applicant's testimony? Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Ryan San Juan.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Second, Mr. Assessor, could you state your full name?
Matthew Harling.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Applicant.
Yes.
Could you please state your full name?
Thank you very much. Wesley Van Bruggen.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Is Mr. Sharples also going to be appearing?
We might as well swear him in just in case he has anything to add along the way. I'll do the presentation, but he might have some things to add.
Very well. Mr. Sharples?
Thank you, Grayson Sharples.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
The floor is yours, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. The first property we have is number 21 Dawson Road North. Let me just refer to my notes here. Okay. Mr. San Juan, you are going to be presenting, so the floor is yours for this property. So take us through this property.
Thank you. So file number is 223572. Roll number is 060929777700. Address is 21 Dawson Road North. Roll year 2023. Reference date April 1st, 2021. Assessed value $1,922,000. Parcel use is warehouse. Number of buildings 1. Number of premises 1. Number of stories 1. Actual year and effective year built is 2000. Wall height 25. Zoning is MB3. Land area is 106,359 square feet. Plan area 9,600 square feet. Leasable area 11,961 square feet. Land plan area is 11.08. And let's turn to page 8. Subject property is located in the southeast quadrant of the city within Mission Industrial Park. Subject is near Plingway Street and Dawson Road North. Page 9 is the street views. Page 10 and 11 are the overhead and aerial views. Access is on Dawson Road North. Here you can see 4 overhead doors, the bottom picture. And page 11 and 12. 11 and 12 also aerial views at different angles. Let's turn back to page 3. And here's the workup. The total leasable area is 11,961 square feet. Total potential rent is $95,090. The model rent is $7.95 per square foot. Vacancy model is 4%, and we're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $86,705. Utilizing cap rate of 5.55% results in a rounded assessed value of $1,922,000, which includes $360,000 for additional land. And page 4. These are the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net rent model is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2015 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1965 to 1988. Average wall heights range from 14 feet to 24 feet. Leasable area range from approximately 5,100 square feet to 15,000 square feet. Net rent range from $8.32 per square foot to $12.35 per square foot. And page 5 is the land comparable sales. The first subject column there, where we've taken 54,453 square feet and multiplied that by $6.62 per square feet to give the excess land value of $360,000. Beside those columns are the comparables, and the comparables support the price per square foot. The range is $7.48 per square foot to $9.13 per square foot. The range, which brackets the subject, is 40,000 to 63,000 square feet. And page 6. And this is the capitalization rate chart. The table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates that fall between the 20th and 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject property's capitalization rate falls on the 20th percentile. Our model cap rates are further supported by the table of outside sources, ranging from between $5.75 to $7.25. Page 7 is the Municipal Act, Assessment Act. And let's go to page 13 and 14. This is the income and expense mailer. Subject property is fully owner occupied. And page 15 and 16 is the COVID questionnaire. And we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm. And we're open to any questions.
Thank you, sir. Wesley, questions of the assessor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If we can turn, let's start on page, sorry, give me one moment here. Start on page 5, please. So this is in question in regards to the additional land. So just so I'm clear, right now, it looks like you're saying roughly 51.2% of the land is deemed excess. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so that'd be roughly 51,000 square feet, give or take, of land? Or 100, sorry, yeah, 51,000?
54,000.
54,000. Okay. All right. So how do you go about determining that amount of excess land?
We would basically what we would do is we would look at the total parcel land value, or the total land area, which is roughly like 100,000 square feet, and then we would look at the land to plan area. As you can see, it's 11.08 for the total land to plan area, and essentially we would deem how much of that space would actually be considered, potential space that you could, if you could cut it off and separate it as two pieces of land. So looking at the land to plan area, at 11.1, that's pretty high. So typically for industrial, 4 to 1 is the standard. So I don't think we're being too unreasonable with that, how we calculate that. So
if we can go to page 10.
Sure.
So when we look at page 10, you would agree that this isn't a perfectly square or rectangular site, right?
Yeah, it's slightly irregular shape. I won't disagree. Yeah.
And then when we look, you would agree that the narrow end is at the back of the site with the wider end at the front of the site, correct?
Yes, it kind of widens out. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And then when we look, are the only access points at the front of the site onto the lot?
The main access point, yes, would be off of Dawson, correct?
And there would be 2 access points to be able to get in and out of that site, correct?
There would be 2 though. Yes, correct. Yes.
Yeah, and then when we take a look, you would agree that there's some fairly large bay doors. As you indicated, 4 large bay doors in the property.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So wouldn't you agree that based on the site configuration, really it would only be some of the land at the back of the site that would be deemed excess. Everything at the front of the site would be necessary for the functioning of the site, right? For the cranes to enter onto the site as well as to pull into the garage. You need a turning radius and be able to back those cranes in.
I mean, yes, there would be some need for turning in. I don't know, how much. It's really hard to say how much you would need, but yes, I guess there would be some room you would need for that. Okay. I won't dispute. So, yeah.
All right. And so again, when we take a look at this, would you agree that when determining excess land, there's also not only just the ratio, the ratio of building to land, but also a requirement to take a look at the actual building itself, the site itself, to see how it functions, and what feasibly could be used?
Well, I mean, I feel like that's kind of like based on what the business could be, because I mean, it could change and the uses could change. But as I say, like if you can see with this building, it's right in the far corner. So I understand that there is the space needed for the cranes to move around and such. But there is still potential. I feel that you could break this land up. But I don't dispute what you're saying. Yes. So
right, but you would agree that in its current state, as is functioning with the current use, that it would be likely that you would need that space in front of the doors to allow the cranes to pull in to the site as well as the cranes to pull into the building, correct?
Well, you would need that space for the cranes to pull in. Yes, correct. I don't disagree. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess then shifting over a little bit, if we could turn to page 3, please. So on page 3, a 5.55% capitalization rate has been used for this property, correct?
That is correct. And
if we can go to page 6. So we see on page 6 that Collier, CBRE, and Cushman and Wakefield, when we take a look at the range of capitalization rates for these properties, they range from 5.75 to 7.25. Why are we almost 20? Why are we 20 points less than what's the lowest point on CBRE for A properties?
Well, if you look at this property, for example, it was built in 2000. It's got 20-foot wall heights. So based on the factors such as the age, size of the building, those would be the driving factors for the lower cap rate. So I understand that they don't fall within that bracket, but as I said, based on the age and size of the wall height, and it being a smaller building too, there's much less risk involved. So that would be another reasoning for the lower cap rate.
Right, but if we take a look, would you say that this would be an industrial A or an industrial B type building?
I don't think it's hard to really. If anything, I would probably say A. Probably, if you had to say, being a newer building, if you had to put in a whole. But as I stated, we're not relying specifically on each of those cap rate, those outside sources. But again, as I stated, the reasoning for the cap rate would be based on the factors I had mentioned. So
okay, and the building single tenant, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do single tenant buildings tend to have a little bit more risk, or more or less risk than multi-tenanted buildings?
Depending on the size, there would be a bit more risk involved because of the fact that you're right, the single tenant vacates, there would be a bit more potential risk. Yes, so I won't dispute that.
Okay. All right. I think that Grayson, do you have any further questions or? Any questions, Grayson?
I don't know if you can hear me, but no, I don't have questions.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think that concludes the questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Warhan, any questions of the assessor?
None at this time, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes, I think a couple. You look at 54,545 square feet of additional land. When you do this, and Mr. Van Bruggen made good points about current use of the land and some of the needs of the long cranes, etc. But when you look at your additional value, do you look at the current value or do you look at the potential for future value that may have some sort of a different business operation or a combination of both?
Yeah, it would be like, essentially, you're right. We kind of look at the potential overall. I mean, I understand you're right. When a business is in there, if they have specific use, that's going to affect it. But we're looking at the potential overall. So, or even as you stated, we would maybe put into the factors, some factors of maybe a combination of both, obviously. So yeah, so it's really on a case-by-case basis. But you're right. We would look at, we're not just looking at the current use, we're looking at the potential overall. So.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Next, are there some additional buildings at the back corner of that lot? I see a couple of what appear to be profiles.
Yeah, in the very far back, yeah, like an old, it looks like almost like a big old shed there in the back, I think you're speaking to, I guess.
And then another one beside it?
Yes, correct, yeah.
And are those factored into this calculation?
No, we're not including that. We're just including the main building at the front of the building, at the front of the parcel. So.
Okay, just curious why you wouldn't include them.
I mean, I think we have them as detached structures. We're just not adding them to the income value because I don't believe they're really providing that much. It's not like they're leasing the space out or adding any additional income for it. It's just an additional, storage space at the back of the building. So.
Have you inspected this property, Matthew?
No, we've not inspected it. No.
You don't. So you're really speculating at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, just from what I've seen and looked at the previous assessment cycles and such, you're right. I have not seen it specifically, but yeah, but we're not including it in terms of value. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I do have one question.
Go ahead.
I look at the mailer and I notice that it's signed by the former owner, former president and owner. Has there been a transaction on this property?
I don't believe there has been any recent sales. Going to our page 2 of the brief, we don't have any sales information regarding a recent sale. So if there was a sale, it may have been something that we're not aware of, but I'm not aware of any recent sales.
Maybe we can get that information from Mr. Van Bruggen then.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. I have just some questions. What is your typical ratio that is on these type of buildings, and what is your typical ratio land to building?
Typically for industrial, it's 4-to-1 is to be the typical, yeah.
4-to-1?
Yeah.
So, anything over 4-to-1 would be classified as excess land, or?
Yeah, like I was kind of saying to Mr. Whitbread, it's kind of, we kind of have to look at the site on a specific basis, because there are situations where, you might be have a building on a piece of land where it's, let's say if it's situated right in the center of the property, well, then it might make it very difficult to, argue excess land, maybe surplus land potentially. So it's really on a case by case basis. And again, when we're adding excess land, it's something we would look at and we would add as we would review it, look at the land to plan ratio and kind of make a judgment on that.
So in determining, I'm going to say it's 7-to-1 over excess land. So does that relate to the 54,000 square feet excess land?
Correct.
Okay. So in the past can you tell us when this excess land was done this way? What year or how long?
I think I unfortunately I don't have that information currently. I believe it's been there for a while, because I don't think this property has really changed in ever since I've looked at the previous passages, just looking at the photos.
So the last through then, Matthew, assessed years, eh?
Correct. Yeah, the last few assessment cycles.
It hasn't been, just maybe this year or the previous year.
No, it's definitely been for the last couple of assessment cycles. So.
Okay. And this is all model driven?
Correct. It would be model driven.
Except for the additional land, at 360,000.
Well, the excess land, the actual land rate would have been model driven, or based on would have been model driven though. So yeah, so it is, yes.
So I see that your land value, per square foot, you've gone to a lower value than what you sort of concluded value on a square foot basis.
Well, again, you try to find comparables similar in size, age, similar in size and location. So yeah, exactly. So. Okay.
So do you feel as if I noticed that, it was built in 2000.
Correct.
So you feel as if the 555 cap rate is applicable to the subject?
Again, yeah, based on that, the age, the building, the wall height, location, those factors, those again are driving factors to the cap rate. So yeah, so I don't, I understand it doesn't fall within the range of some of the other cap rates, but I still think the cap rate is good based on those factors. So
I see, because we're not into that evidence yet, but you're fairly close in regards to the rate per square foot. The city's at $7.95 and the applicant is at $7.25. So you're fairly close.
Yeah, our potential rents are pretty. Yeah.
Okay, I thank you both. Wesley, we're ready for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If the board can turn with me to page 3, we'll get started. And I'll just give a moment. Everyone there?
Yes. Go ahead, Wesley.
Perfect. Thank you. So as mentioned, the subject property is an 11,961 square foot industrial warehouse situated on 2.4 acres of land located in the Mission Industrial Area. The building was constructed in 2000 and has been assessed using the income approach to value. The property has been assessed at a value of $1,922,000. M&P is requesting a value of $1,672,000. If the board will turn with me to page 5, we'll just go through the differences. On page 5, we have a requested assessment. So in terms of the first component, it's the rental rate. As mentioned, the city is using a rental rate of $7.95 per square foot. M&P is requesting a rental rate of $7.25 per square foot. Additionally, when it comes to the additional land, M&P is not disputing that there is some additional land on the site. However, it's our position that we're requesting the value of that additional land to be $250,900. We'll go through the calculations of how we came up with both of those in a moment. If the board will turn with me to page 6, we have the characteristic and physical conditions of the property. So here we just have the property valuation form, which has been provided by the city of Winnipeg, just outlining the parameters which have been utilized in the assessment of the property. Page 8, we have a map of the property. This has been provided from the City of Winnipeg's assessment website. Again, this has been already identified by the city in terms of where the property is located. Page 9, the same thing, just a satellite map again of that property. Page 10, we have a single out exterior picture of that property. If the board will move with me to page 11, we'll get started with the information, the evidence. So the first up is the rental rate. As mentioned, the property has been assessed using a rental rate of $7.95. M&P has taken a look at leasing from similar warehouses, and it's our position that leasing for similar properties is occurring between $6 and $7.25 per square foot. So here we provided 3 leases. One of the challenges that we found is that there aren't a ton of new leases from newer buildings that we've seen. So what we focused on, or leases from the area. So primarily what we focused on is the size of the building. So you can see here, we've looked at buildings that are 9,000 to 15,000 square feet. So we're bracketing the size of the property. Additionally, we're taking a look at the wall height. So the property is a 25-foot clear wall height. The properties that leases from properties are from a 20 to 24 clear wall height, and then the transaction date. So these occurred between 2016 and 2018. And we can see here the 3 leases between $6 and $7.25. We've used the higher end at the $7.25 just because we do acknowledge the fact that it is a newer property. Again, when we take a look at what the leasing would be, we'd expect it to be on the upper end of that range. So that's where we're getting our $7.25 request for that property. If the board will move with me to page 12. Page 12, we have the second component, which is the excess land. So as mentioned, the subject property has been assessed with excess land at a value of $360,000. In looking at the site configuration and considering the entrances and exits for the site, it's M&P's opinion that there should be 38,600 square feet of excess land. So what we've done is we've taken a look at that site, and we provided a Google Maps with our calculations of how we looked at that. So some of the considerations that we looked at was the way that the yard was being the yard could be accessed. So you can see that there are 2 points located along Dawson Road that will access the yard or provide yard access. Those are on the far side of the site. So again, when we take a look at that, regardless of how the site's being used or who's using the site, those access points are going to remain the same. So at the end of the day, you can't really have development on that side of the site if you want to be able to get onto it. Additionally, we took in consideration the bay doors on the property. So again, when we're dealing with a garage, you need to be able to have turning radius as well. When we take a look at this, the zoning of the site is going to be, I believe, give me 1 second here. It is M3, so heavy manufacturing. So again, when we take a look at that, there is going to be a need for some heavy machinery to be able to access the site. And when it comes to heavy machinery, typically what you're going to need is a pretty reasonable turning radius to be able to get into the bays on the garage. Otherwise, that garage on the site is just not functional. So when taking a look at those, taking a look at the garage, taking a look at the access to the site, taking a look at the configuration of the site, what we've determined is that back portion of the site we agree could be used for additional development. However, we're only calculating 38,600 square feet as mentioned. If we move to page 13, To determine the land rate, what we've done is we've taken a look at land sales. We've identified 5 land sales that we feel would be reasonable comparables within the area. These properties have zoning between M1 to M3. We take a look at the size of the sites. We can see that on the low end, we're at 14,000 square feet. On the high end, we're at 62,000 square feet. When we take a look at the sale price per square foot, we can see that these range from $9.13, from a low of $4.05 up to a high of $10.47 per square foot. Taking a look at this and considering probably the two most similar sales, that would be 999 Dugald and 973 Mission. Here we see these two properties are selling at a rate of $4.05, $6.47 a square foot. Considering the size of the amount of excess land, it's our opinion that a rate of $6.50 would be reasonable to be applied. To determine the value of the excess land, we take the 38,600 square feet of the amount of additional land that we've calculated, take our land rate of $6.50, multiply the two together to arrive at our land rate of $250,900. If the board will move with me to page 14. Page 14, we have our conclusion. So again, using our requested rental rate of $7.25, our additional land value of $250,900, we arrive at our requested value of $1,672,000 for that site. Page 15 and 16 is just supporting documentation. So this is just providing the notice of hearing. Page 17, we have some pictures, and I apologize to the board, that should release information. So these are the buildings used within the leasing analysis. So the first is 1520 Inkster Boulevard. So you can see again a fairly clear wall, so a high clear wall head on that. Then we have 1457 Chevier Street Boulevard. And then finally on the bottom on page 18, we have 1791 Dublin Ave. 1791 Dublin Ave would be most likely the most comparable. You can see that it has a similar function of a 2-story component on one part of the building, as well as a large bay doors in the back of the building. You can see on the bottom of page 18. So again, when we take a look at that, that would probably be one of the more comparable ones. This 1791 Dublin leased at $6 a square foot. And we're requesting a rate of $7.25 a square foot. So we feel we've been conservative there. Starting on page 19, starting on page 19, continuing on till page 38, we provided documentation for the sales that we've utilized. These were all taken from the Johnson report, and we provided that supporting documentation there for the board's reference if need be. Starting on page 40, continuing on till the end of the documents on page 62, we provided the information, valuation of income-producing properties for the 2023 general assessment provided by the City of Winnipeg. Again, we'll provide that. We provided that there. We can go through it if there's questions, but again, it's just more supporting documentation. With that, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very kindly. Mr. Assessors, any questions of the applicant?
No, I think our questions have been answered. We're good. Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Warhan?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes. Mr. Van Bruggen, could you walk us through your calculations and how you arrived at 38,600 square feet of additional land versus the city's 54,545?
Certainly. So the first thing we've done is we've used Google Maps to be able to measure, to be able to determine a measurement of the site as well as the land that we're looking at. Then what we did is we took a look at the building itself. So how is the site configured? Where are the entry and access, or where are the access points to the site? Where's the building located? And how would you be able to access the bays on the building? Those were certainly considerations that we would be making, and really it would be our opinion that any purchaser would be making, as it is a heavy industrial site and typically that involves heavy machinery. Then once we took a look at that, what we did was we took a look at what the turning bays, where the building, how you would be able to access, so what it would take to turn to get into the bays, as well as provide a little bit of storage on site for the equipment. Because again, a lot of times for the reason you have a yard, and in these cases is you do have a little bit of storage of machinery equipment that you would need to be able to have on the site. Using those as the basis, we took a look, and that's how we came up with the 38,600 square feet. You can see there on page 12, we provided that map, and you can see the polygon, that measurement there that we've measured with the yellow. That is you can see there in terms of the area that indicates the 38,600 square feet there.
Mm-hmm. So you're assuming continued use of the property for a business that would incorporate very large, because these are lengthy vehicles that we're talking about, aren't we?
Yeah.
When they're laid down.
Yeah, the cranes certainly are long. I mean, again, I think certainly some of the considerations we looked at was what's the use of the site. So we can see they have the big bay doors. So again, it'd probably be used more as a service garage along the lines now and in the future. Took a look at the zoning. So we're at heavy industrial zoning. So again, usually when you're taking a look at that, we'd expect that to be trucks, heavy machinery, what have you, would be likely the use, what the intended future use of that site would be. Again, taking a look at where we currently are now, but even if another user was to buy or rent the building, again, just based on what the site is being used for and how it's configured, it's likely that they'd probably be using it for some sort of similar purpose.
Would you speculate that the city arrived at their 54,000 square feet by moving that western edge of the polygon closer to the building, perhaps?
Unfortunately, I don't, I know that the city had mentioned that they looked at the land to area ratio. I wasn't, through the question, I wasn't 100% clear on what the considerations were or where they would have drawn that line on the site. So I do apologize.
Okay. And can you answer the question about the signature on the mailer as the former owner? Do you have any knowledge of what that's about?
So oh, sorry.
No.
Okay. So I don't know if, as far as I'm aware, there wasn't a sale on the building. I do know that this had been full. So this is owned by a capital organization, and they had folded the crane operation into their overall business. So it seems, and again, I'm speculating. Admittedly, it seems like they had purchased the business, the crane operation, for the overall capital corporation, and that's, I think, why that they had indicated it that way, is they had taken over the business and accordingly the real estate as well.
Thank you. No further questions?
I thank you. Wesley, just to follow up with Mr. Whitbread had said, you're assuming certain things for the excess land. Did you not consider the ratio, excess ratio at all?
Again, I think when certainly we agree that the building on the site is a small component of there is, additional land that is not necessarily needed to support the building. However, when we take a look at the site with excess land, our first consideration really is what's the site configuration? How's the site being utilized? I think if we paint everything with the same brush, we end up in a situation where the results may not necessarily bear out with what reality suggests it could be. So if we take a look at the site, reasonably look at where additional development could happen without impeding the actual use of the site, again, it would be our position that really would be that back corner. We're taking a look, we're saying the 38,600 square feet based on how we feel that the site would operate. Could it be a little different? Could it be 30, could it be 39, 40,000 square feet? Sure. Could it be 35, 30,000 square feet? Sure. Right. Like there's a range there. I think we're trying to look at all the factors when making the determination as best as we can, and not just looking strictly at what the land to building ratio is.
All right. But your rate per square foot for the value of the land is fairly close anyways, and your cap rate. So this is really, there's a difference of $110,000, eh? So.
Yeah, I mean the rental rate were 70. I think overall you add the two together, we're close to 250,000 different. But if we look at each one individually, yeah, I agree. Like the land is 150,000 give or take, 100,000 give or take different.
All right, I thank you. Summation, either party.
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
And I think we're as good as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I thank you. We'll go to the next property, which is 1346 Spruce Street. Mr. Assessor, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property. We will briefly describe it because there is a non-co-op issue. So if you wouldn't mind reading it into the record.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-3390. The roll number is 13004118000. The address is 1346 Spruce Street, and the owner's number company 101039232 Manitoba Limited. As you stated, there is a non-compliance issue, so I will begin with that as it's a preliminary issue. So if the board wants to go to page 12 of my brief. So this is the blank mailer we had sent out, or the certified mailer we had sent out. We sent out an initial mailer in May initially. If we don't receive that information back, we'll send out the certified, which is this one here. So pages 12, 13, 14, 15 are just the blank certified mailer. Now if we go to page 16 in my brief, this is the actual information we've received from Canada Post, which has been signed, indicating that it was delivered. I will note that the mailing address that we are sending this the mailer to, as well as the tax bill, is 1346 Spruce Street. And just going on page 17 of my brief, you'll just see also they've indicated that their mailing address is 1346 Spruce Street. So we do have the correct address on file. And secondly, I would just like to note the last time we did receive a mailer from the subject property was in 2009. So we have not had a mailer in quite a few years. So that would be really my main evidence in support of the non-compliance issue. So.
All right, Wesley, your conclusion or your response to the non-co-op issue?
Sure. So if we can turn to page 2 of the city's brief. On page 2, it's indicated that this property sold. Did you know this property sold August 2021?
Yes, August 16th, 2021, correct.
Okay, and then if we turn to page 12. So this, when we take a look at the income and expense mailer, you would agree that this was sent June 9th, 2021, so prior to the sale date?
Correct.
And then if we take a look at page 16, so the Canada Post, and we take a look at the delivery date, June 10th, 2021, that would be before the sale date, correct?
Correct.
Also, if we turn to page 12, if we could. On page 12, you'd agree the company number that this was sent to was 601-2400 Manitoba Limited, correct?
That is correct.
And if we turn to page 17, so this is the border revision application. You'd agree that the company name is 101-03932 Manitoba Limited?
That is correct.
So is it possible that the mailer was sent to the previous owner of the property?
It's quite possible. So yes, I can't say for certain, but yes.
Okay, so it's probable that the new owner has never seen this mailer or had a chance to fill it out.
For this before the sale, yes, for during the sale, it's quite possible, yes. So.
Okay. So is it traditional then in these cases for the still to pursue an issue of non-compliance when the new owner has not received the mailer?
It's a case-by-case basis, so I can't really, it's not like we don't have a specific, situation how we do it. So, but yeah, I see. I understand what you're saying, though. Yes. So.
And we could all probably agree that the new owner probably did not receive this mailer. Would that be a fair statement to make?
Based on the current who was sent to, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's everything.
Gentlemen, post reference dates material should not be included in the presentations. Okay, so we're going to have to ignore that. There was the sale, I think you had mentioned.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's more so to prove that the mailer, in terms of this request for the city for the non-compliance, it's more so to show that the new owner never would have received the mailer. That would have gone to the old owner of the property. The property transacted after that mailer had been sent, so the new owner would not have had a chance to fill out the mailer and return it because they would not have been aware of it.
Okay. Ms. Wahan, any questions in regards to what you just heard?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No questions.
Madam Secretary, we're gonna have to turn off the cameras and we're gonna have to have a little meeting amongst the panel members to discuss the issue. So if you don't mind.
I don't at all. Give me a moment, please.
I thank you, ma'am. I'll call a hearing back to order. We're dealing with 1346 Spruce Street. The question is the non-co-op issue. The panel has discussed it and has decided to go with the city and grant the non-co-op issue to the city. Therefore, Wesley, you will be presenting first. So the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If the board can turn to page 3, please, when you get a chance. And just let me know when you're there.
Yep.
Excellent. So the subject property is a 23,134 square foot storage warehouse located in Sargent Park. The building was constructed in 1987 and has been assessed using the income approach to value. The property has been assessed at a value of $1,884,000. M&P is requesting a value of $1,732,000. If the board will turn with me to page 4. Page 4, we have the assessment provided by the City of Winnipeg assessment website. Here we can see just some of the information already covered. We can see the civic address of 1346 Spruce Street. We can see the location is in Sargent Park. The roll number for the property is 13004118000. Assessed value is $1,884,000. The property has been assessed as a warehouse, sits on 1.3 acres of land. The board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have a requested assessment. The only issue we have with this property is in regards to the capitalization rate. The city has used a capitalization rate of 7.2%. M&P is requesting a capitalization rate of 7.84%. If the board will turn with me to page 6, we have the characteristics and physical condition of the property. So here we have the valuation provided by the City of Winnipeg assessment search. Here we can see the overall effective age of the building is 1987. We can see the building is comprised of 23,134 square feet. A vacancy rate of 6.5% has been utilized, an expense allowance of 3%, as well as you can see that capitalization rate of 7.2% has been applied. Page 9, if the board will turn, we have the assessment map provided by the City of Winnipeg assessment website. Here we can just see the location of the property located between Spruce and Valor. As well, we have an overhead satellite map provided by Google Maps as well on the bottom of that page. Page 10, we have several exterior photos of the property. You can see that on page 10, on the top and bottom of page 10, as well as a side picture on page 11. If the board will turn with me to page 12, please. So the first consideration, we've taken a look at the property. We recognize that it's been assessed using the income approach to value. However, we've taken a look at similar sales within the area. We can see that sales within the area identified by year of construction, as well as building area and sale date, have been transacting for values between $44.84 a square foot up to a top of $84.84 a square foot. The subject property in question has been assessed at a value of $81.44. M&P has taken a look at these transactions. You can see that there's 5 transactions that we've utilized within the area. And we can see that the average of these transactions is $64.50 and the median is $66.16. So quite a bit lower than the assessed value of $81.44. So in terms of looking at the property, the board will turn with me to page 13. Understanding that a capitalization rate has been used. So what we've done is we've used those same 5 sales that we've identified as comparable properties. We've applied a similar rate rental rate. So the rental rate applied to the property is $6.74. We've applied that same rental rate. Same thing with the vacancy rate, applying a 6.5% vacancy rate, 3% allowance, and $3.85 operating costs. From that, we've used that to calculate the net operating income for each one of these properties and calculating capitalization rate. Here, what we can see is the properties have been selling with capitalization rates ranging from 6.91% up to 13.07%. When we take a look at the average and median of these capitalization rates, we can see that the average is 9.62% and the median is 8.86%. When we take a look at these properties, we recognize that some of them are a little older. So we've taken a look at specifically the sales from 2018 to 2020. When we've taken a look at those three sales, we calculate a capitalization rate of 7.83%, an average capitalization rate of 7.83%, and that's what we're utilizing. It's also worth noting that there's a sale very in close proximity to the subject property. That's 1350 to 1368 Spruce. Similar year of construction, 1979 year of construction. Similar in size, 29,401 square feet. And we take a look at the capitalization rate that property has generated. It was 7.73%. So right, similar, very close to the capitalization rate we've calculated for the property. So again, if we can go back to page 12, if we use that capitalization rate of 7.86% or 83%, we get our requested value of $1,732,000. That yields a value of $74.84 per square foot, which we take a look and we can see that is on the certainly within the range. And when we take a look again at 1350 and 1368 Spruce Street, we can see that property sold for $75.85 a square foot. So very close to what our requested value is going to be. Page 14, we provide a list of the sales that have been used for the calculation of the capitalization rate. The red pin in the middle of the page, that's 1346 Spruce Street, so that's the subject property in question. You can see that the comparable properties that we've utilized are all very close proximity. And as the board will note, you can see 1350 and 1368 Spruce Street, so that's the green pin, is located in very close proximity to the subject property when we're taking a look at it. Page 15, we have our conclusion. So again, taking a look at the valuation of the property, we have used a capitalization rate of 7.83%. That generates, using that, we arrive at our capitalized value of $1,732,000 for that property, a reduction from $1,884,000 as initially assessed. Page 16, 17 are the notice of hearing for the property. 18, we have the sales. So page 18, we have each of the sales, pictures of the sales that have been utilized in our analysis. So we have 725 Century at the very top on page 18, so two pictures there. Page 19, we have 1350, 1368 Spruce. You can see that there's an office component as well as a warehouse component on that, page 19, on the bottom of page 19. That is the closest in proximity to the subject property in a similar year built. Page 20, we have 1810 Dublin. Page 21, we have 961 Jarvis Ave. And then page 22, we have 986 Wall. Starting on page 23, continuing on until page 29, we have the supporting documentation of the sales from the Johnson reports. So this is just where we've gotten our sales that we've utilized in our capitalization rate analysis. And then starting on page 31 to 53 is the information from the City of Winnipeg, so the value of income producing properties for the 2023 general assessment from the City of Winnipeg. With that, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Assessors, questions of the applicant?
No, I think my questions have been answered. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warren?
I'm good, thanks.
Well, thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
I don't have any either. So, Mr. Assessors, take us through your presentation of 1346 Spruce Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the file number is 22-3390. Roll number is 13004118000. The address is 1346 Spruce Street, and the owner is Number Company 101-03932 Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,884,000. So on the bottom of page 1 of my brief, you'll see that there's 3 buildings in the south for the property. It's a one-story build. They're all one-story buildings. The actual and effective year builds range from 1987 to 2011, where you're using an overall effective year built of 1987. The wall heights range from 11 to 18 feet. Property is zoned M2 manufacturing general. The land area is 57,744 square feet with a planned area of 22,060, which gives us a land of 2.62. And we're applying a leasable area of 23,134 square feet. Going to page 2 of my brief, we've already spoken about the request for information. There were no recent sales. There was a post-reference sale, which I won't speak to, and we don't have any property leases in place. Page 3 of my brief is just some photos of the subject, again located on 1346 Spruce Street. So at the top, you can see where it's located, and at the bottom, just to further, just to show a bit more positioning of where the building is situated. I think we've already spoken to this too. Page 4 is just some photos of the subject from street view, just to show the building. Page 5, my brief is just a overhead view of the subject, just to show the piece of the building, how it's situated on the parcel of land. And there's just some further, again, photos on page 6. You see some for just different angle views of the subject property. And this continues on page 7 as well, just the back of the building. So we go to page 8 of my brief. Again, we're applying a leasable area, or using a leasable area of 23,134 square feet. We're using a model rent of $674, which gives us a potential rent of $155,923. We're allowing 6.5% for vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $145,708. We're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 square foot shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of $135,625. And lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 7.20%, which gives us an estimated value of $1,884,000. I think it might just going to page 9. I think I'm just gonna. I don't think it's really necessary to go through my rent comparables because we're in agreement on the rent. So I think it's maybe the board doesn't need to really do rent comparables then. So just to speed things up, if you will. So
Very good.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to go to page 10 of my brief, just looking at the capitalization rate information. Again, we're applying a 7.2% cap. So just looking into the industrial sections, the city Winnipeg's 28th percentile. I believe our cap rate falls within that range, 7.20. And then just looking at the outside sources, I believe our cap rate is also further supported by the 7.20% cap rate applied. And again, based factors on such as the age, size of the building, those are your factors again driving the cap rate we've applied. Page 11 of my brief is just the municipal assessment active group information. And then pages 12 through 14 we've already spoken to with the non-compliance issues. So that concludes my presentation. I ask the board to confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Wesley, questions of the assessor?
I don't have any questions. Grayson, any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Questions?
Ms. Warhan?
Just on the date 1987 to 2011, were those those two smaller buildings on the side additions?
Yeah, basically, as you can see, there's like 3 buildings on the property, so they've all kind of been added at different times. So essentially, yeah, exactly. Some are different wall heights. That's why there's a range of wall heights as well. So yeah, they've been added over time. Yeah.
Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread, questions?
Just a question on the cap rate. Seems a little bit high given the age of the building. Did you inspect the property, Matthew?
No, unfortunately, I haven't inspected any of the properties on the docket today, so no.
So you can't comment on the condition?
No, as I stated, like, yes, there's a range of buildings. So, again, we've used a 1987 effective year built because they've been built at different times. But yes, I haven't inspected, unfortunately, so.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. Either party want summation?
No, I'm good, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think we're okay, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, Wesley, I think that concludes your part here, Wesley.
It does indeed.
Okay, so have a good day. Results very soon, and thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, board members. Thank you, assessors. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Ryan, you
All
have
right.
a great day. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye. Okay, Mr. Oliveira, we'll get you sworn in.
Just need to get started here.
Mr. Oliveras, sorry.
Oliveros, yes.
State your full name.
Ryan Oliveros,
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to 585 Jarvis Avenue. So I think, Mr. Assessor, you can just do the preliminary read-in because we have liability to deal with and classification and quantum.
Correct.
Is that right, Mr. Oliveras?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so Matthew, go ahead.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-1636. The roll number is 14002169000. The address is 585 Jarvis Avenue, and the owner's number company 120000853 Alberta Limited. So I think it's good that.
All right. The city's position right now is the assessed value is 990,000, correct? And
Correct.
And there is no split. There's no. It's a 60.
Well, I mean,
Or not.
yeah, they're actually. Like, I do have a. I guess I'll have to let Mr. Oliveros go first, and then I can kind of state my position, I guess, on the situation. So.
All right. Ryan, whenever you're ready, you can. The floor is yours in regards to liability.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so as Mr. Harlan mentioned, we are dealing with the property at 585 Jarvis Avenue. The roll number is 14-00216900. I've provided photos of the subject property on pages 2 to 3 of my brief, as well as an aerial photo on page 7 of my evidence. If we skip on to page 10 of my brief here, so we are going to be referring to the Municipal Assessment Act here for the classification of property and portion values and the Municipal Assessment Act itself. So Section 8B of the Municipal Assessment Act states that land and buildings or any portion of land and buildings that are exempt under subsection 23(1) of the Municipal Assessment Act from taxation for school purposes. If we go on to section 23(1) of the Municipal Assessment Act here for the exemption from school taxes, it says here that subject to sections 25 and 26, real property is exempt from taxation for school purposes where the real property is, in the highlighted sections here, is owned or is held in trust for and is used by a college or seminary of learning to a maximum exemption of 1.62 hectares. And then in subsection C here, it says is owned by or is held in trust for and is used by a charitable organization primarily for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to aged, indigent, or sick persons to a maximum exemption of 0.81 hectares. If we go on to page 11 of my evidence here, now I've provided the tenant verification form from 2022, actually. Now I understand that it is post-reference, but we are dealing with equity here. So I provided the current rent or the 2022 rent roll here on page 32 of my evidence. We can see here that unit 5 is occupied by the United Way of Winnipeg, and they're using it as the headquarters of the Winnipeg Boldness Project. And for units 3A and 2 here, they've combined both of the units. It's occupied by Brandy Bobier here, but it is actually for the Community Helpers Unite Incorporated. So if we go back to page 11, again, as I mentioned, the Unit 5 here, it is occupied by the United Way of Winnipeg, and they're using it as the headquarters of the Winnipeg Boldness Project. What the Winnipeg Boldness Project is, it's a community development project here that's funded by the United Way of Winnipeg. The United Way of Winnipeg is actually the signer of the lease document. And what the Winnipeg Boldness Project aims to do is to improve the outcomes of children in the Point Douglas community area of Winnipeg. And they do this through social innovation to develop community, or they do this through social innovation, developing community-driven solutions to help children in the Point Douglas area thrive. So, I mean, put simply, it's essentially research and development to help develop ideas to children in the Point Douglas areas just to improve their outcomes in life. And they are a not-for-profit organization. The Winnipeg Boldness Project, they also, just to add here, they work directly with the residents of the Point Douglas area to figure out the issues that children in the Point Douglas area are facing. On page 11, I provided the charitable organization number for the United Way of Winnipeg here for your reference. And on pages 12 to 13, or pages 12 through 14 of my evidence, we can see some of the initiatives that the Winnipeg Boldness Project has taken. And I've also provided further articles as well as screenshots of their website of the Winnipeg Boldness Project. Starting on page 33 to 39 of my brief, and that is for your review. If we go on to page 15 of my evidence, so Unit 3A and Unit 2, again, those units were combined here. It is leased by Community Helpers Unite Incorporated. Again, that's a not-for-profit organization, and they provide cooking and grocery classes to marginalized groups, and they give volunteer opportunities to people facing employment barriers. And once a kitchen is completed at their warehouse on Jarvis and McGregor, they are going to use it to upcycle leftover foods into meals for those in need. So upcycling, just to give you some background on that, upcycling is taking leftover foods either from restaurants, food that's being thrown away, and it's, I don't know what the scientific process of it is, but it's upcycled into meals that that become edible. And so they take expired meals and such to provide to those in need. I provided the again, some of their initiatives here on pages 16 and 17, as well as the article of incorporation on pages 18 and 19. So on page 19, we can read here on line 5 that the undertaking of the corporation is to work to improve security and reduce poverty. And on line 7 here, it says that the corporation has no authorized capital and shall be carried on without pecuniary gain to its members, and any profits or other accretions to the corporation shall be used to further its undertaking. I believe on their Facebook website as well, or on their Facebook page on page 15 here, they also state that they are a not-for-profit organization. So I believe that given these factors here, and I'm sorry, I should also mention too that I've provided articles of the Winnipeg Boldness Project, sorry, not the Winnipeg Boldness, the Community Helpers Unite here, as well as the Leftovers Foundation, which, forgot to mention that as well, the Leftovers Foundation subleases the space from Community Helpers Unite. And Community Helpers Unite works with the Leftovers Foundation again to distribute food to those in need. So on pages 41 to 49 of my evidence here, you can read up more on the Community Helpers Unite as well as the Leftovers Foundation. I've included the charitable organization number of the Leftovers Foundation on page 44 of my evidence. So I believe that based on these factors, the fact that Community Helpers Unite is a not-for-profit organization, the Leftovers Foundation is a charitable organization, as well as the United Way of Winnipeg. We also know that is a not-for-profit, a charitable organization, that this property should in part fall under sections 8B of the Municipal Section Act and 23(1)B and C as a school tax exemption. So we ask that the board revise the classification for this property from class code 60 to 40S and class code 60. And that concludes my presentation on classification.
All right. I thank you, Ryan. Just to more or less recap, so everybody's on side with it. We have a class code 40, which consists of 3,720 square feet, and a class code 60 that consists of 4,280 square feet, correct?
That is correct. Sorry, I would have mentioned that. I believe at the last day only asked me to.
I just wanted to get everybody on side.
Oh, for sure.
Mr. Harling, questions of Ryan?
I just do have one question. I just will mention we had myself, Mr. San Juan, and Mr. Oliveras had a chance to inspect the properties last week, or inspect the property and the tenants, and speak to them. So I guess my one question is the one tenant or the one that's using the space, the Winnipeg Boldness Project, are you aware if they do any actual, helping anyone physically on the site, like based on the Section E of the Municipal Assessment Act, where it states to held in trust for use by charitable organization permanently for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to aged, indigent, or sick persons. Do they do anything on the sites physically on that particular unit, or is it mostly just administrative purposes, I guess? Or
it's administrative purposes, but my interpretation of the act here, 23(1)E, it says assistance to indigents. So I believe by initiating the research and development, providing the administrative duties for a charitable organization, that they are providing assistance to the indigent.
Okay, but there's nothing on site then. Okay, that's just one question I have. So.
All right. Ms. Wahan, any questions?
No, but just a little typo area on his assessment summary stating it's 595 Jarvis.
Oh.
Just.
Thank you.
But that's all. Thank you.
Very good, Val. Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Harding, I think we go to quantum now.
Oh, well, I was gonna say actually there's a kind of I do have a presentation, I guess, regarding speaking to this actually. So because I don't basically I'm not saying I disagree with Ms. Oliveras in the sense, but there is a bit of a interpretation of the act of how it states. I'm not in a disagreement with the 40S classification, but based on the way we interpret the act, stating as it states, helping for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to the aged, indigent, or sick persons to a maximum exemption, we're looking at the physical site itself, if they're actually physically helping people on that site. So I'm basically not in disagreement with the unit 5 or the unit 3A and 2A, but seeing as the one unit that the Winnipeg Boldness Project they're using for primarily administrative purposes, we're not. I'm not really so much in agreement with that space being exempt in sense. We're in agreement with the other space, but not that particular space based on the usages of the space. Where the other space, they actually are physically helping people on site. They have volunteers coming in, they're providing food and such to individuals. So I know it's a bit of a interpretation difference, but that's our position on it. So I'm the 2,200 square feet space. We are in agreement with for the class and liability of the 40S though. So it's just the other area we're not in agreement with, if you will. So I'll have to make the board to make their decision on that, but that's just my position on that.
Yeah. Okay. So do we go to your presentation now?
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question of the assessor?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Arling, I definitely respect your opinion there, but I mean, you'd agree with me though that the United Way of Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Boldness Project, they're not there to make a profit. Is that correct?
No, I don't dispute that. No, but as I stated, just looking under the act, we're trying to follow what it states. So, but yeah, no, I understand. Yes.
For sure. And the United Way of Winnipeg, that's a charitable organization, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Merrick, may I ask a question?
Certainly.
I'm going to the tenant verification form and looking at the tenants listed on the form, the units of the square footage, and I'm having trouble coming up with the 3,720 square feet for United Way. I suppose either gentleman could answer this. How do you arrive at 3,720 on that tenant verification form?
Right, so that 3,720 is actually a combination of the Community Helpers Unite as well as the United Way. So there are actually two different tenants that are charitable organizations there, which is how I arrive at 3,720. So Brandy Bobier here for Community Helpers Unite is 2,120 square feet. And the United Way of Winnipeg is 1,600 square feet, which is how I arrive at the 3,720 square feet. Or the exempt portion.
I'm not seeing the first one that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's 3A and number 5.
And I don't have a number 5. Isn't that interesting?
It's kicking around.
There it is. Okay, that's number 5. That is 1,600 square feet. Unit number 1. I mean, help me here. I don't have a something 20.
Are we looking at page 32, Mr. Golding?
Just a minute, I have to shrink mine down. I had to blow it up in order to see it. I'm looking at page 13. And on that page, I only see United Way of Winnipeg. I don't see the other one mentioned.
It is somewhere around there, and I can't put my finger on it, but I remember seeing it.
Mr. Wicker, are you looking at our city's brief, I guess, or
the city brief?
Oh, okay. I believe Mr. Oliver had stated, yeah, the based on the equity portion of things, the mailer he's speaking to is actually the 2022 mailer, I believe, actually. So that's which is on page 32. It's just to show the units themselves. So that's why it's not on that particular page. So.
Okay, so you're satisfied that the square footage is correct?
Yeah, in terms of like the way it's been, yes, like I don't dispute like the way the square footage is, yeah.
Okay.
Square footage.
And I understand your frame of discussion, so fine, I just can't find it on mine. No problem, thank you. No further questions, Ron?
So you're okay, Richard?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have questions when we get to value, of course, but.
Okay. Mr. Harling, maybe your presentation now?
Okay, on the quantum part side of things, Mr. Chairman, or?
I'm sorry?
Or we're going on the quantum part, correct? Now it's
yes.
section.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. So again, the file number is 22-1636. The roll number is 14002169000. The address is 585 Jarvis Avenue, and the owner is Number Company 1200853 Alberta Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $990,000. If we go on page 1 of my brief, you'll see the property description information. There's one building, there's one story building, and there are 5 premises. The actual and effective year built are 2008, with the wall heights are 18 feet. The zoning is M2 manufacturing general. The land area is 22,057 square feet, with a planned area of 8,000 square feet. Which gives us a land to plan area of 2.76, and then lastly, leasable area of 8,000 square feet. So we turn to page 2 of my brief. You'll see the request for information have been received, and there was no recent sales, but the last time the property sold was in 2014 for $1,150,000. And the bottom of page 2, there are subject leases in place. However, I just don't have them on this page. So we turn to page 3 of my brief. These are some of my rent comparables. Or actually, you know what? I should like to show the site first. I apologize. Let's go to page 7 first, actually, just to show some of the pictures of the subject. I think that makes more sense. So go to page 7 of my brief. At the top, you'll see a photo of the subject property, the subject map. So at the top here, you'll again see it's located on Jarvis Avenue. You'll see what's close by. Arlington Street is just west, and then if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see exactly where the subject property is situated on Jarvis, and McGregor Street to the as a corner adjacent site, and then just north of that is Dufferin Avenue. So go to page 8 of my brief. You'll see some photos of the subject. So at the front of this, the front of the building of the subject property. At the top and at the bottom, this is the rear. So you have the sliding loading bay doors. So go to page 9 of my brief. You'll see at the top of my brief, subject property, the parcel outline, and then at the bottom, just another photo. If we turn to page 10, you'll just see further photos of the subject, the rear of the building, from the top and the bottom there. And then lastly, on page 11, again, you'll just see another photo from just a different angle. So now if we can go back to page, actually we'll go to page 4 of my brief. I think it makes more sense to go to the actual workup. Apologize, this is the orders a bit off. So if we go to page 4, again, you'll see this is a flex warehouse. We're assessing it as we have 5 separate premises. And then you'll see all the different leasable areas, which equal up to 8,000 square feet. You'll see the rent we're applying for each of these areas. We're using an overall blended rent of $8.05 a square foot. So again, this gives a potential rent of $64,406. We are applying 6.5% for vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $60,220. For expenses, we're allowing 3% for non-recall expenses, as well as $3.85 a square foot shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of $56,411. And then lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 5.70%, which gives us the estimated market value of $990,000. So what I would just like to just kind of state, obviously I know we spoke about the class liability issue. I understand Mr. Oliver's position, and I know the board heard our position. So as I stated, we're not, in unfavor of the split class. So just based on my the way we perceive this, or we were seeing this, I do just want to give you the breakdown of how we're recommending to break down for our purposes. Again, the board makes their decision, obviously, but so for the 60T portion, we're allocating them $713,000 would be my recommendation on that, and then the remaining 40S would be $277,000. So the overall value still equals $990,000, but that's how we would, based on our position, we would split it. So I just wanted to give the board, that's how we did it. So all the parameters are going to be the same in the sense of like the vacancy, cap rate, and such. Like the overall potential rent, everything's going to be the same. It's just the splitting of it. So, so if the board has any further questions on that, I can answer that. So we just go to, and unfortunately, apologize, back to page 3. This is where my rent comparables are. So they range from 1,169 square feet to 2,765. The lease terms range from 3 to 5 years. The lease start dates range from January 2017 to September 2020. Wall heights range from 14 feet to 19 feet. The effective year belts range from 1965 to 1980. And the net rents range from $7.75 a square foot to $12.25 a square foot. Now if we turn to page 5 of my brief, again, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 5.7%. So if we look into the industrial section, so this falls within our 20th to 8th percentile of properties the city of Winnipeg apply cap rates to. It also does, it is, I believe, supported also by the one of the outside sources at CBRE. Now, another reasoning for the lower cap rate would be based on the fact of the size of the building, the age. So these would be some of the driving factors, the wall height. So again, these are the driving factors. It's a multi-tenant building, smaller units, less risk. So I believe that's why the cap rate would be supported. We've already spoken to all the photos here. So if we just turn to page 12 of my brief, this is the actual mailer, 2020 mailer. So I'd just like to note that the actual rental income that they're generating is roughly $64,121, which is very close to ours at $64,406. And they're reporting an overall net income of 52,000, or net operating income 52,560, where we're roughly at 56,411. So I don't think there's a much of a dispute in terms of our net incomes are pretty close as well. And then just turning to page 13, that's just the actual rent roll for the current 2020. And then lastly, page 14 and 15 of my brief are just the actual COVID year questionnaire. I believe that's concludes my presentation. I ask the board confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Ryan, questions of the assessor?
Yes, with regards to the location, would you say that this area around Jarvis Avenue is actually a poor location?
I mean, you're right. I wouldn't, I don't know if I would say it's poor, but it's definitely, not as like higher into some areas, if you will, or as desirable, if you will. So.
Would you agree it's probably one of the least desirable industrial areas in the city?
I guess you could say, I think it's less desirable than most areas. I won't dispute that, but being this a newer building, they clearly built the building on it and they didn't have an issue with it. So, but I don't dispute, right? It's not as desirable as some areas. So.
Okay. And the cap rates reported by the brokers, those are usually of top quality investment assets, are they not?
I can't speak to that. I don't know the specifics of what sales or what they use within the outside sources, but yeah, so I can't speak to the specifics of it, unfortunately. So.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Warhan?
I have none, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes. Do you know if there's any revenue being generated by that large billboard on Jarvis Avenue on the property?
Unfortunately, on the mailer, typically we would look like we would show on the mailer, or sometimes we'll get a secondary, piece of secondary report indicating if they're getting income. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything, so I can't state if they're getting income from that or not. So.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. Mr. Harding, I'm just looking at, you're not in opposition to the split, the 60-40 split, the classification, but I'm just wondering, you've given us some figures here, and for the 60, you have 713,000, and for the 40, you have 277,000, correct?
Correct. That is correct, yeah.
So,
it's based on like the split of the areas.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's basically just like, I apologize, like I didn't provide my recommendation workup, but yeah, it's just based on the fact of like, again, I know Mr. Oliveris has his position and we have ours, but we're allocating 1,500 square feet to the 60T in my situation, and then 2,200 square feet is allocated to the 40S. So that's why there's a difference, obviously. So. Okay,
yeah, this is what I'm sort of getting at. So like the total works out to be 990.
Correct.
I'm just looking at the percentages in regards to what the applicant has in regards to the split and what your position is. So, under the 60, it's 72%. And then for the 40, it's 28.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So, you've probably looked at it. I'm not sure about the other members, etc., but I've looked at the applicant's position. And so for the 60, he's got like 55% and the other is 45. So I'm wondering how we can, get closer here, or you know, who was wrong?
Well,
So tell me just, I guess, how you determine the split. Is it based on square footage?
Yeah, I basically took the total square footage of the total area, and basically that's kind of how I
Okay.
applied it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so tell me how you got this at the 60. What square footage do you have?
For myself, 5,800 square feet.
I'm 1,500?
5,800, sorry.
5,800. Okay, 5,800. And just give me a figure because I can't think this morning.
No, no worries.
Okay. Okay. So, oh, it should come to it. So it should be 2,200, eh?
Correct.
2,200. Okay. Okay. So that's how you determine that part.
That's correct. That's how I determine my split, yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me just have a look at something here. So you are in opposition for the 40. You have 2,200 square feet.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, and the applicant has got 3,720.
Correct. So yeah, there's the difference of the 1,600 square feet. So.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, 1,600 difference. Okay. Okay. I just want to work that out. So.
I apologize. Yeah, it's complicated.
That's okay. That's okay. Ryan, I think we're ready for your presentation.
May I just ask one question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
On just following your lead here, what rent did you use for the 40S rent, Matthew?
The rent would be, like I said, the overall rent is $805, but the rent for the 2,200 square feet would have been $8.18 a square foot.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't understand.
Sorry. For the 40S space, it would be $8.18 a square foot is what I applied.
No. So for the 60T, you've got 805.
Yeah, so like I said, it basically, so for the 2,200 square feet would be $8.18, and then for the 5,800 it would be $8. Yeah, those would be and then if you actually the potential rents, if you add them together, they actually equal the same as what it's currently in my brief at page. The potential rent equals the same on page 4 if you add them up. It's like $1,709.96 for the 2,200 square feet, and $46,400 for the 5,800.
It's okay. I missed the 818.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sure, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Chair, I also have a follow-up question if that's still okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Mr. Hartley, for the square footages that you had used here, is it based on what's currently inputted into the city's or into the model's system, I suppose?
Yeah, that would be correct, yes.
Okay. So you wouldn't have an updated, you wouldn't have updated the leasable areas based on the current square footages of each of the units. It's based on the on historical data.
Yeah, that would be correct, yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oliveris, your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Harling has already given an accurate description of the property here, except for the leasable area, which I will explain more in my presentation here. So if we go on to page 24 of my evidence here, it looks like there's another, or no, not a typo here. So for the class code 60 portion, we are using leasable area 4,280 square feet. That is based on the the 10 verification form that I have provided. Again, that's on page 32 of my evidence here. You can see that unit 1 is 1,600 square feet, and unit 4/3B here is 2,680 square feet. I've provided a table here of the actual rents in place for the 4 units that were occupied as of the reference date. They range from $7.06 a square foot to $8.90 a square foot. You can see here that they were all negotiated within the reference period. So for the class code 60 portion here, we've applied $8.90 a square foot, which was the actual rent in place for unit 1, and $7.50 a square foot, which was the actual actual rent in place for units 4/3B here. And so we've arrived at an annual potential rent of $34,340, and this and that equates to $8.02 per square foot. For the vacancy allowance, we're not disagreeing with the city here. We've applied 6.5%. We agree with a shortfall rate of $3.85 a square foot. And of course, for the non-recovered expenses, we're continuing to apply a 7% non-recoverable expense allowance here. I know we're all quite fully aware of our non-recoverable expense study, so I won't be going through that today. For the capitalization rate, I believe this is where our values differ as well. I understand that it's a newer property, but just given the location on Jarvis here, I'm applying a cap rate of 7%. For the school tax exemption portion, we've applied a rentable area, typo there, of 3,720 square feet. So unit 3A is 2,120 square feet, and unit 5 is 1,600 square feet. So the unit 3A there was no actual, so the lease for that unit would have been post-reference. So based on the rents of the other comparable units, they're all pretty much the same type of space here. Mr. Hardling and I both inspected the property, and each unit is very similar to one another. So we've applied $7.50 a square foot for unit 3A. For unit 5, we've applied $8 per square foot. So for the 40S portion, we've arrived at an annual rent of $28,700 or $7.72 per square foot overall. Vacancy, shortfall, and uncovered expense allowance, we've kept that consistent throughout our entire valuation there. The cap rate for this portion as well, we're not going to be changing the cap rate for just 2 units, so we've kept that at 7%. And that arrives at a value for the 40S portion of $343,000. I provided a summary of my valuation here on page 29. So for the overall rent, we're not too far off from the assessor here. I do recognize as well that the annual income that the property is actually receiving was around $64,000. So I really wouldn't have an issue or take any issue with the overall rent that the city has applied in this case, just again, because we're not too far off. So in conclusion, we're requesting the board to reduce the assessed value for this property to $754,000 through a split classification. So for the class code 60 portion, we are asking for $411,000. For the school tax exemption portion, the 40S portion, we are asking for $343,000. And that concludes my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Harling, questions of Mr. Oliveras?
Just one really quick one. So I know like the main difference in our valuations is the cap rate we obviously differ in. So I guess the 7% cap rate, the main I guess factor you applied in that cap rate is based on the location, is what you would agree is why you think you're applying, like, that's why you applied that cap rate based more or less on the location, even though it's a newer building and such, I guess. And
that is correct, yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Warhan?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
Just a quick question to sort of get your take on the fact that there was a sale, and I know it was 2014, but $1,150,000, and now you're looking at $754,000 as a value, and looking at approximately a $300,000 drop in value over 7, 8, 9 years, 8 years. Can you comment?
That sale is older. I didn't look into it too much, so I mean, with my valuation, given the net operating income here, and the fact that it's in this type of location, I mean, I wouldn't be able to provide much comment on that. So,
But the
it's
implication
another
is
sale.
property value is declining in that area. That's the implication I read here.
Yeah.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. Ryan, I guess I just picked up that for the subject property, you've included, or you stated that there's a mezzanine of 1,305 square feet. Yet in your presentation, there's nothing in here. So
Mezzanine?
the mezzanine,
Okay, I see. Is that on page 54 of my evidence?
I don't remember exactly where it is, but my notes, it might be on your front page or, I'm not sure, but, I see that it's like a 2-story building.
Yeah, so when we inspected the property, I mean, there were sort of portions of the building where there was, I don't even know if you can really call it mezzanine space, but it was sort of unfinished areas, really.
Yeah, but I guess, you didn't conclude any value for the, for this square footage. You're just using the 8,000.
I'm using the 8,000 based on the fact that my client also stated that only 8,000 square feet of the building would be considered leasable. Sometimes with these mezzanine areas, they could just come with the
Okay.
with the unit themselves.
Okay, that's fine. Summation, either party?
I think I'm good. I'll let the board make their decision on the evidence. Thank you.
Great.
Yes, so I would just like to summarize here that the Community Helpers Unite, as well as United Way of Winnipeg, they are charitable organizations. I've provided the charitable organization numbers for the United Way of Winnipeg, as well as the Leftovers Foundation, as well as the article of incorporation for Community Helpers Unite. So I asked that based on that the square footage that I've applied here be applied, and that my values of 411,000 for the class code 60 portion and 343,000 for the school tax exemption portion be applied.
All right. I think we're probably going to take about a 10-minute break. So we'll reconvene at 11:05. All right, we'll call a meeting or call a hearing back to order, and we're going to go to the other one on Jarvis, which was 893 Jarvis Avenue, which is the Kyle Tire property. So Ryan, San Juan, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. File number 223204, roll number 14002952500, address 893 Jarvis Avenue, roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021, assessed value $924,000, parcel use warehouse, number of buildings 3, number of premises 1, number of stories 1, actual year built 1949 2001, effective year built 1966, wall height 10 to 21 feet, zoning M2, land area 94,077 square feet, plan area is 16,122 square feet, leasable area 16,122 square feet, land to plan area is 5.84. Let's go to page 7. So the subject is Property is located in the north central quadrant of the city, just off Arlington Bridge. Page 8 and 9 are there's a street view there on the top of page 8. Overview on bottom of page 8. Page 9 would be aerial views at different angles. You can see the access is on Sinclair Street. Here you can see the overhead doors in the top picture. Page 4 is also an aerial view from a different angle. And page 4, so let's go back to page 4. So here's the workup. The total leasable area is 16,122 square feet. Total potential rent is $81,900. The model rent is $5.08 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 6.5%. So we're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $70,244. Utilizing cap rate of 7.6% results in a rounded assessed value of $924,000. And let's go back to page 3. These are the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net rent model is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2015 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1963 to 1975. Average wall heights range from 16 feet to 20 feet. Leasable area range from approximately 11,000 square feet to 21,000 square feet. Net rent range from $4.93 per square foot to $7.31 per square foot. Let's hit page 5. And this is the capitalization rate chart. The table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates that fall between the 20th and 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject property's capitalization rate falls outside the 80th percentile. Our model cap rates further supported by the table of outside sources ranging from 5.75 to 7.25. Page 6 is the Municipal Assessment Act. Page 11 to 14 is the income and expense mailer. Page 13 shows one tenant, net lease checked off. Page 15 and 16 are the COVID questionnaire. And we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oliveras, questions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Senwan, are you aware that over 10,000 square feet of this building was built in 1949?
Do you see here? Yes, it was built starting 1949. Yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to review the photos that I sent over to Mr. Harling?
We did look over
property.
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that there appears to be a lot of deferred maintenance within the subject?
Yeah, there's I would disagree. There's some areas that are in further disrepair than others. Yes.
Okay. I know we've provided our comments regarding the poor location, but I'll speak more to that in my presentation. So going to page 3 of your evidence, have you reviewed photos of your comparable leases?
We've looked at the comparables, but I don't have the specifics on them currently. But we have looked over them previously. Yes.
Okay. Did they appear to be in better condition than the subject property?
Some of these would be newer than the subject, so I won't dispute there's some differences in terms of the effective year builds and such. So some of these would be, you could argue, would be superior than the subject. Yes.
Okay. And your comps, they're mostly in the St. James Industrial Park, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, would you agree that the St. James Industrial is a superior location to the location of the subject property?
I won't dispute it's definitely more of a, you could argue slightly, it is a bit more of a desirable location, yes.
And did you have a chance to review the income and expense mailer?
Yes, I did review the income expense record, yes.
Okay, and it states there that the rental income received is $24,000, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and your income is at $81,900? Or the model income, I should say.
Yeah, the model income is correct, yes.
Okay. And you're aware that the lease in place for the subject is a non-arm's length lease? Or sorry, is an arm's length lease?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, when looking at it, I understand that that is the lease in place, but you know, they don't show any expenses or anything like that. So, and I understand that's the rent income, but you know, I'm not putting a significant amount of weight on it. So, but that's just, but I understand, yes, it is that they've indicated it is a net lease though, so.
Okay, that works out to about $1.50 a square foot, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. But they do state that the rental income is net.
They do state, but again, you know, the mailer, they don't fill that much else on there. So again, I don't, you know, I haven't really seen too many leases that low, so I don't know how much weight I would put on it, but that's what they've indicated. So I'm not disputing that though. So
yeah. Fair enough. And typically with these single occupant properties, it's the tenant that typically pays for the hydro, water, sewer, HVAC. Not sure, basically for all the utilities, correct?
They would be paying for the utilities in that case, yes.
Okay. And that's likely why those haven't been stated on the income and expense mailer, because it goes directly to the tenant instead of the landlord?
Yeah, exactly. Again, I can't dispute that. I can't state for certain, but that's what I would assume, yes. So.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warhan?
Okay, other than the pictures that the applicant has sent you, have you inspected the building?
No, unfortunately, we weren't able to, Mr. Oliveros had inspected, and he did ask me if I could inspect. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it at the time, but yes, we physically have inspected. However, he did provide us the photos, so. Okay,
when was, do you have record of when the last time the building was inspected?
From our records, it's been quite a few years. I don't have an exact date, I apologize. So, but we haven't inspected recently, so.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes. Bear with me for a moment. So in your brief, oops, I'll have to wait for those questions. I'm trying to come to grips with this $24,000 rent and your value of $81,900 rent. You would look at that model generated rent, Matthew, and would you not want to make an adjustment to that rent?
As I stated, like I understand that's the rent in place, but, and I know Mr. Oliveros had stated they've indicated a net rent. So, you know, I understand that's what they've applied, but, you know, from personal experience, I've really rent that low. I don't know. It doesn't seem like, you know, I guess we just haven't put a lot of weight into it, I guess, if you will. And you're right. So, I mean, ideally, sometimes we'd like to look at the mailers, but in this case, we just didn't, you know, apply that rent in this case. So.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Sanran, Mr. Harling, it came up that 10,000 square feet was built in 1949. Correct. So what happened that has an effective age of 1966, but there was some improvements maybe in 2001. So yes, do you know what they are offhand?
I believe there was again, unfortunately, like it said, the information we have on this one is a bit, I wasn't able to, I was trying to find some permits. There was no permits I could find, unfortunately, to indicate if there's any new buildings added. I think there was maybe a bit of a, maybe some renovations made or such, which is why we would update the effective age. But I apologize, I don't have the specifics of which specific particular space was, adjusted at this time, so.
All right. You also mentioned that in your rent comparables, I think the low started at $4 a square foot and went upward. So, so $4 might be the minimum that you have.
I mean, it's a range, and as Mr. Albert stated, I understand that the comparables are located in the St. James area, which you could argue would be maybe a bit more of a desirable location. We try to bracket the comparables, obviously. I'm not really relying on one specific comparable, but I guess that there's not a lot of comparables in the area we could find, so that's why we had to kind of branch out a bit. So
this is model driven at the cap rate of 7.6.
Correct, it is model driven.
Okay. After looking at some of the pictures, do you feel as if the 7.6 is warranted?
I mean, like overall, when we're looking at cap rates, again, we're looking at all the sales of properties, similar types of properties. But you're right. I mean, you're right. There is some issues with the building. I won't dispute that. So, that's the model cap we've applied. So, that's what we're going to be applying at this time. So.
Any consideration in regards to, the location at all? Because this is the north end, is it not?
That is correct, yes. I mean, this might be something going forward. We might have to take a look at it going forward, maybe that next further cycles, but, this is how we have assessed currently, so.
I've driven past the property and it's like an eyesore anyways. I mean, it's a cow tire. I mean, there's all kinds of tires in the yard, and I'm not sure in regards to, they say that it has 16,000, 122 square feet. I
mean, that's the
anyway.
building a file, but yeah, so
Okay. Okay. I thank you. Mr. Olivares, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so the subject property is at 893 Jarvis Avenue. The roll number is 14-00295-2500. So again, I inspected this property after the submission date. It was on January the 18th. Through my inspection, I did confirm what the owner had told me, which was that the property is in poor condition here. If we go on to my property description on page 8 here, you can see that the larger portion of the building is requiring a full roof replacement, and I've included my client's email that's regarding that. So to get into some of the details about the building, it's a part wood frame, part steel frame, part masonry industrial warehouse. It's located on the northwest corner of St. Clair Street and Jarvis Avenue. The original structure, it was built in 1949 and measures 10,330 square feet with a 21-foot wall height. There was a wood frame addition built in 1987, measuring 1,792 square feet with a 12-foot wall height. There was a steel frame addition as well in 2001, and that has a gross floor area of 4,000 square feet with a 10-foot wall height. So that brings us to our total gross floor area of 16,122 square feet. My client had also mentioned that there was some cold storage in the building. I think he was just using that sort of term interchangeably. It's actually just unheated storage area in the building. So again, just through my inspection there was a lot of deferred maintenance within the property. I think I even saw rotting on the roof in that larger portion that I point out on page 8 of my evidence. The site itself, it's 94,077 square feet, and it says low land to building ratio there. I think that was just pulled over from another brief. That is not a low land to building ratio of 5.84 to 1. Also, my client did let me know that the site is contaminated. With regards to the location, so my opinion on Jarvis Avenue here, it's in the north end. It's not a desirable location for, I would think, any type of property. There's high crime rates in the area. It's not the safest area to really locate it, unfortunately. And my client also had the same comments. I'll refer to the email at the end of my presentation here. So if we go on to page 12 of my evidence, I provided 12 comparable leases here. They range in age from 1917 to 1988. Leasable areas ranging from 8,020 square feet to 24,720 square feet. These were all signed between and before the reference date. The rents range from $3.50 a square foot to $5.60 a square foot. And as we had learned in questioning, the actual rent in place on this property is very low. I would agree with Mr. Harling that I haven't seen a rent this low as well, but I mean, that might just speak to the condition of the property and the area. So based off of that, given the fact that this property was predominantly built in 1949, I've applied a rent of $3.50 per square foot. That's based on the property there on Midland on index number 12. I provided photos of the comparable leases as well, starting on page 18 of my brief, going on to page 22. For the vacancy rate, we don't disagree with the city's model in this case. We applied 6.5%. The shortfall rate, $3.85 a square foot. For non-recovered expenses, we're applying 7% for our cap rate. So based on the location of the subject property, based on the condition, we are classifying this, as shown on page 14 of my evidence, as a non-investment grade property. So those cap rates fall in the 8% and above range, with a premium again for the location and the condition of the property. So we are applying a cap rate of 8.5% to the subject. So here we've arrived at our value on page 15 of my evidence of $530,000. And I do just want to make note of some of the highlights of my client's email here on page 34. It is the last page of my evidence. So he was basically saying here that when they were contemplating selling the property about 4 years ago, they were thinking of selling it for only $450,000. And for the reasons that he states here, given the location, properties in this area, they don't appreciate in the same way that properties in the safer industrial areas do. This area of the city, again, like I mentioned, it has very high crime rates here. As my client has also mentioned, it's not a good location. Based on what I can read here, it looks like there's been materials that have been stolen. And also they have to have a guard dog on site to keep away thieves from the area. Low ceiling heights, there's unheated storage. And regarding the roof, again, he says here that the larger portion of that roof, there's rotting, the metal decking there is rotting. And as well, he also states that the property is contaminated. And that's summarizes his email there and concludes my presentation. Thank you.
I thank you, sir. Questions of the applicant?
No, I think we're good. No, the questions we were curious about have been answered. Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Warhan?
Yes, in regard to your statement on the property being contaminated, and it states here that would need remediation, what sort of contamination are you talking about here?
You know what? Unfortunately, I forgot to ask that to my client.
Okay, if you've got you've stated rotten metal decking over the largest section of the building, would that come into part of your contamination statement?
Possibly. When I was observing the metal decking, it was sort of like this. There was sort of like this black rotting, possibly mold on the roof, so that might have something to do with it.
Has your client ever had this checked out with a professional?
He has not. He estimated himself that the roof replacement may cost over 100 grand, but given the condition that the property is already in, I believe he stated that it might not. It just isn't worth it to repair this property anymore. I mean, it could be a tear down at this point.
So
I'm speculating.
Okay, so is it safe to be in that property with all this going on?
I would hope so, since I inspected it, and I don't think he's had it inspected by any professionals that would be able to. I don't know what the association would call, but he did not mention of any inspections to determine if the building was safe or not to be in.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes, I guess you understand it's very difficult for us to consider the contamination if you can't explain it, because it could be from the tires, it could be from fuel, it could be from the rotting members that we're discussing, but it's really hard without that detail and without some estimation of cost to clean the property up in order to make it resaleable, right?
I understand, yes.
Okay. Is the owner the occupant?
No. He leases it out here. I think he says the Croy Tire. I had questioned him on that because I had expected this to be a non-arm's length lease, but in questioning, I understand that they are actually the owner and the tenant are arm's length.
Okay. And in your brief, on page 11, you indicate that the city has a rent of $602 when the city indicates in their brief that they have a rent of $508. Can you explain that discrepancy?
It appears that I've just been making a few typos in writing these briefs. Yeah.
So would you agree with the city's rate then? Sorry, let me rephrase that. Would you agree that the city has expressed it as 508?
Yes, I would agree that the city has applied a model rent of $5.08 a square foot, and that I have applied $3.50 a square foot, to be clear.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Oliveris, you said you did an inspection. Your overall evaluation of the property, I mean, what does it consist of? I mean, is there a repair shop? Is there office inside? And is it in poor shape, as you say? I mean,
it isn't, in my opinion, it is in poor shape. I've seen exposed ceilings. The finishing within the property is not in the greatest shape. There is a waiting area, reception area. There are offices. The warehouse portion, not in good shape. I think I even saw there's cracks in the building everywhere. Sorry, not cracks, but again, exposed walls. The unheated storage spaces themselves, like this was previously co-op dairy, I should mention too, and it was previously used as a horse stable. So the building itself is just, to me, it looks like to me, it looked like it was just falling apart.
So the cap rate that you're using, you feel like that is justified to be at the 8.5%, or should it be higher?
I feel that it's justified at the 8.5. I think it covers the location, it covers the condition, and also, I mean, I don't want to be double counting here. I'm already applying a $3.50 per square foot rent. So in applying a higher cap rate, I feel like I would just be double counting for condition and the location of the property.
And do they have an estimate in regards to the roof repair, or as you said, it's probably not feasible to spend that kind of money because roofs are very expensive, and it would be almost like once the building becomes not functional, they'll just knock it down and it'll be land value.
Yeah, they did not. He did not have a professional. He did not have a quote for the actual roof repairs. And I'm just speculating that it wouldn't be feasible to replace the roof on the property, given the rent that he's making. It would take him.
All right.
It would take him over 6 years to recover that cost.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, may I ask another question, please?
Certainly.
With the description of what he's saying about the building and the condition, I don't know if the city did get some pictures, but would it not have been to our advantage for the panel members to see some of those photos?
It would have been to the advantage. However, I inspected the property after the fact. So I didn't provide the photos for that reason. Otherwise, I would have. And I could give a deeper explanation to that. So as my client mentioned in his email, I didn't allude to it. The property, I believe the appeal last cycle was withdrawn. Mr. Harling and I were going to come to an agreement. And then once I did mention the value to my client, he immediately told me about the condition of the property and the issues that it's facing. So that's the reason why I wasn't able to inspect it until after, because I wasn't aware of the state that the property was in. Otherwise, I would have provided those photos in my evidence.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Either party want summation at all?
No, we're good, thank you.
No summation, thank you.
All right, let's go to the last property, which is 205 Milnick Road. Mr. Assessor, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
Okay, file number 221653, roll number is 08005834600, address is 205 Milnick Road, roll year 2023, reference date April 1st, 2021, assessed value $992,000. Parcel use is warehouse, number of buildings 1, number of premises 1, number of stories 1, actual year built and effective year built 2009, wall height is 16 feet, zoning is M2, land area is 57,184 square feet, plan area is 4,032 square feet, leasable area is 4,626 square feet, land to plan area is 14.18. And let's go to page 3. This is the subject property located in the southeast quadrant of the city. Property is near La Jamoria and the perimeter. Page 4, subject property street view. This seemed to be used as an auto dealership. Page 5, access is on Milnick Road. This is the overview and an aerial view. Page 6 and 7 are also aerial views from different angles. Page 8. Here's the workup. The total leasable area is 4,626 square feet. Total potential rent is $46,954. The model rent is $10.15 per square foot. The vacancy model rate is 3%. We're utilizing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This results in an NOI of $43,645. Utilizing a cap rate of 4.4% results in a rounded assessed value of $992,000. Page 9. These are the rent comparables. These comparables are what the net rent model is based on, the actual rents from the market. All leases are current in relation to the reference date, which range from 2016 to 2020. Effective year built ranges from 1955 to 2008. Average wall heights range from 14 feet to 17 feet. Leasable areas range approximately 2,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet. Net rents range from $10.08 per square foot to $13 per square foot. Page 10. And this is the similar type of use properties. You can see that the average, weighted average and median price per square foot would be around $12.22 to $14.65. And page 11. This is the capitalization rate chart. The table second from the top are the industrial capitalization rates that fall between the 20th and 80th percentile. As you can see, the subject property's capitalization rate falls below the 20th percentile. Our model cap rates are further supported by the table of outside sources ranging between 5.75 to 7.25. Page 12 is the Municipal Assessment Act. Page 13 to 14 is the income and expense mailer. Property is fully owner occupied. Page 15 and 16 are the COVID questionnaire. And we feel this value is fair and equitable and respectfully ask the board to confirm. Open any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the assessor applicant?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Warhan?
Just a clarification on your cap rate. Why would you think that it should fall below the 20 percentile?
The reasoning for the lower cap, the main drive factors would be the age, the size of the building, wall height. Another factor I'd like to mention too is, you can see it's got a 14.18 land to plan ratio. I know we had spoken to that in the previous property today. We're not assessing any additional land. This is kind of a situation where we wouldn't add the land because, as you can see where the building's situated on page 5, it's kind of right in the center of the property. So I don't dispute that there is some, to really have excess would be, not likely. You could argue some surplus land potentially, but the reasoning is, again, for the lower cap rate would be based on those factors, land to plan area, effective year built, wall height, age. So those would be the driving factors for the lower cap rate. So I understand it doesn't fall within that range, but there are cap rates that fall within, you could say, the 0 to 10th percentile and such, where it goes higher. So.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
I have none either. So, Mr. Oliveras, your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so the subject property is at 205 Melnick Road. The roll number is 08-00583 4600. The assessor has described the property well here. I provided photos from my inspection back in, what's that here? In July of 2017. They are on pages 18 to 26 of my evidence. Page 6, I've provided aerial shots of the subject property, as well as on page 7, just showing the access points. If I just go on to my analysis on page 12 of my evidence here. So we have 13 lease comparables here. They range in effective ages here of 1953 to 2000. Total leasable areas of 3,525 square feet to 21,046 square feet. All negotiated within or before the reference date. The rents range from $5.70 a square foot to $10.15 per square foot. Based on these leases, I've applied rent of $9 a square foot to the property. We agree with the city on the vacancy here of 4%, shortfall rate of $3.85 a square foot. We continue to apply the 7% non-recoverable expense allowance. And for this property, I recognize its age here. So we've gone on the lowest end of our cap rates. I don't consider this an investment grade A industrial property at all, but just given that age there, I've applied 6%. And this brings me to my final value of $608,000. And that concludes my presentation.
Oh, he's muted, I think.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
there we go.
Assessors, questions of the applicant.
Yes, we had a question. Do you think it could be more classified as a vehicle service garage?
I would agree with that, yes, and I believe that my comparables here. Oh, yes, I would agree that it's should be classified. It could be classified as vehicle service garage.
Okay. That's all the question. I think
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Warham,
I'm good, thank you.
thank you. Mr. Whitbread,
The only thing I notice is that there might be a communication tower on the property. Is that a revenue producing tower, do you know? I think page 19 illustrates it most clearly as I can find.
It's all. It looks like that actually might be behind the fence of the property here. I'm trying to look at the aerial map
Yeah, that's what I
to
was
see
doing.
if it's actually on the property or not, but I can't really tell. But the client's income statement is not showing anything for income for radio tower, and that's on page 30 of my evidence.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Okay, no issue, thanks.
I thank you. Either party wants submission?
We're good. Thank you.
No summation, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Oliveris, I think that concludes your part. So thank you very kindly for your presentations and have a good day. Results very soon. Mr. San Juan, Mr. Harling, thank you for your presentations and excellent job and have a good day.
Thank you too.
You
Take care.
too.
Everybody.
Thank you.
We have heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.